Hello everybody, this video will be about the smart grid, and the best example I can show you is the downtown of the city that I live in, San Jose, California. I will start with 10th Street and Santa Clara Street. So Santa Clara Street is the one that is the street that goes all the way down through downtown. From 10th Street it goes to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then there's a bunch of different named streets. At every street I will point out to you the smart grid device. 10th Street and Santa Clara. The white box. See the white box? That's the smart grid device. Santa Clara and 9th Street. Notice on the top of the pole and on the pole moving upwards at the top. Above the 9th Street sign, there's also another one straight ahead where the tree is. There's actually two over there and one more on the pole itself. Santa Clara and 8th Street, on top of the pole, next to the light. 8th Street, 7th Street. And notice on the back light pole, there's some too. 6th Street. I want you to notice the lights themselves are smart technology. 5th Street. 4th Street, above the light pole. Look at that, pointing in 3 different directions. More so, on the light pole where the Santa Clara Street sign is, there's another one. And look above that other highest light pole, camera and what's beneath it. 3rd Street in Santa Clara. There's more. 3rd Street continued. Look at that beast. Just look at it. 2nd Street, Santa Clara. 1st Street, Market Street, still on Santa Clara. Light pole in the background next to the red light to the right. San Pedro Street, entrance to San Pedro Square. Look at that bad boy. Not only this bad boy, but also that bad boy. San Pedro. Almaden Avenue after San Pedro. Look at that bad boy. Also above the light pole. I mean the sign. See, Santa Clara. Notre Dame Avenue. Above the sign. Also above the Santa Clara Street sign. More Notre Dame. I specifically wanted to point out the light. Look at that thing. It's a smart light. Almaden Boulevard. Above the street light. Also one over there. Freeway Exit Street. Close to the head of the street pole. To properly understand what you just saw, I first have to properly explain what you're looking at, because this is all based on understanding reality, and too few of us take the time to actually do so. It's funny that in my search, I've overlooked the very basics that we all need to be aware of, that make the greatest difference of all. And that is to understand the dimensions that we already know, very specific. Here goes my attempt. So the first dimension is just a line, right? Like length. The second dimension is a square. So now that line has length and width. The third dimension is a cube. And that cube now has length, width, and height. So apparently, starting with the second dimension, everything else emanates from squares. Squares, 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 squares. It sounds like other universal mathematical equations that exponentially grow to the upside, exponentially grow to the downside. The fourth dimension is two cubes that are connected. And if you look on the internet, you will realize that they are connected in such a way that each side is able to move freely. It has the name of a very interesting thing, a tesseract. A tesseract has been in a lot of movies lately involving the Avengers. There are also some sculptures in front of some buildings. I'm gonna try to find the links. But they portray a tesseract, which is a cube within a cube. Now the way it's connected is very interesting. But in theory, it should be forever moving in any direction where a side is connected to another side, because it literally has the freedom to move in any direction, which is very interesting. I have to really research this tesseract. So how does this apply to the downtown section? So you have to think, Santa Clara, which was the main street that I was on, is the line, okay? It's the first dimension. The second dimension, which is not only length, but also the height, is what was literally width. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So now you have length and width, which becomes the sidewalk that I was on and the street next to me and the other sidewalk. And then the third dimension, which is the cube dimension, is where you start adding the environment, like buildings and trash cans and whatever, okay? So I went from first dimension to second dimension to the third dimension. But I've been exposed to all of them at the same time. You understand? There's the dimension of the street, the line just looking straight ahead, dimension of walking on that street, because now you see its width. And then if you look around, the height, the third dimension. So at the same time, all dimensions are occurring. But we often overlook. We know scientifically, theologically, religiously, since time immemorial, that there is a fourth dimension. In a sense, God speaks from the fourth dimension. The commandments were given from the fourth dimension. So what is the fourth dimension? It is frequencies. It is directed frequencies. So what I showed you in that video is the street. Well, not so much the street because I was pointing up. I showed you how big the streets are, panning in the different directions. I showed you like San Pedro Square, the environment, which is the third dimension, but also specifically the devices that put out frequencies. That's what those white boxes are, okay? They put out frequencies. And the frequencies are literally thought waveforms. So when they hit your mind, you start thinking to yourself, I'm hungry. or I'm thirsty, or I'm late for work, or I hate my neighbor, or I gotta do something bad today. I gotta have a drink. I gotta lose my mind. That's what those frequencies are able to put out. So the more exposure you get to those frequencies, the more likely you're gonna start losing your mind. That's why you see so many people that are kind of crazy in downtown areas. They've been out for too long, exposed for too long. So then, why have them on at every street for the whole length of that Santa Clara Street? Why have it? Because whomever designed those devices was thinking in the 4 dimensions aspect. The street level, the first dimension, the second dimension, which is the width of the street, then the third dimension, the buildings that are around, which create specifically corridors for those frequency signals, which may have any whatever thought, but also from the 4th dimensional aspect. And this 4th dimension, to us, at this point in time, is known as the ether, because we are unable to see it. So when you're looking at that white box, which you know is putting out frequencies that have the power to control your thought process, you should really be seeing beams of light coming out of them. Heck, they may even be full-blown words. We should be able to see all of that. But because we are unable to see that, the smart grid has full control over our day-to-day lives, unless we attain some level of conscious awareness. So then, how do you see? How do you start to see? For now, let's just say it's part of a visible light spectrum that we do not possess. A different bandwidth, just outside our visible range. Perhaps we could literally invent some glasses, like the glasses in the movie They Live, or Rowdy Roddy Piper. It could literally be like that. We could literally just have to put on some magic glasses and see all this shit. If someone wants to invent them, hey, send me a copy, please. What we often overlook is that the smart grid is not just in busy areas like downtown, it's everywhere. For the most part, every house has a smart meter now. Well, that smart meter is able to do what the white boxes do downtown. More so, it's a direct link to the electrical power system of your house, every outlet. So if it wants to put out certain thought processes to introduce them into your mind, it can. And so does Wi-Fi. It's not just your cell phone that picks up the signals, it's also your consciousness. It's also your smart TV. It's also your smart devices. Maybe not this, but at least the ones that have GPS on them. All of them. Everything that has GPS is communicating with the global consciousness, the artificial intelligence consciousness that is global. When you're at work, in your cubicle, or if you work in a store as a cashier, there are frequencies put out just for those specific segments, okay? So the white boxes in downtown areas are pointed at street level because every level of each building has its own levels of control, especially through the Wi-Fi system. And everyone has a smartphone. Everything that has the word smart in it is attempting to control your thought processes. So you see, the smart grid is not just what you saw in the downtown area, it's every aspect of our lives. We are always, in a sense, monitored, brainwashed, controlled, and ultimately just simply used and abused.